Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and I'm going to be continuing my Banished playthrough. If you haven't seen the first video already, I would definitely check that out, where I talk a bit about my early experience in Banished, have a funny story of the first time I played, and then I go ahead and start building up my civilization. Essentially all we've done is we've set up a main area where we have some of our buildings, and then we've set up a local hunter society, a gathering society, a foresters, and so we're just getting off the ground. This video is going to take it to the next step where we go through several more winners and start to get established. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned. So okay, what's going on here? Well, people are collecting resources. We have our houses, but it's still not enough for everyone. We need more houses. And if we look at our food reserves, we're doing pretty good, but there's no firewood. So let's get back to explaining what happens in the game. So I've collected a lot of raw logs, but the logs need to be turned into firewood. So you need to have a resource production here. So that's going to be my woodcutter. He's essentially just going to chop down logs. So I will place him... Usually you want him next to a forest, because that's where you're going to be chopping down a lot of logs. So let's put the woodcutter over here. I'm going to wait for this forest to regrow, and the woodcutter will be here. So they're going to build that, and essentially what's going to happen is I cut down a lot of the forest, which is cutting in half the production that I could have had out of this gathering hut. So what you can actually do is you can mend the forest, which is one of the things I didn't realize before. Like I said, in my first civilization, I was very much slash and burn, destroy the entire world, turn it to our whims. But there are ways to counteract that. So one way to do that is to create this Forester's Lodge. And what the Forester's Lodge does is essentially he maintains the forest. So he will be chopping down trees, but he'll also replant the trees, which is pretty nice. So that's what my Forester Lodge here is going to be built for. Let's put him here. So the Forester Lodge is just someone here to maintain the forest. So he will chop them down, but he'll also replant a bunch of places. So I'm expecting this whole area to regrow. Early game, it's okay to cut down forest. It will regrow over time if you need the raw resources just to jumpstart your economy. So that's what I've got going on. So okay, cool. We're building the woodcutter. We got food that's being collected. We're doing okay. Let's go ahead and start collecting some of these resources here. I want to get... where is it? Over here. Set priority. I always get lost. There's so many different tabs. Oh, resource collection. Sorry. So let's collect the stone. That's a very useful one for building houses. So villagers are going to go and be tasked to do that. Okay, they're building homes. Great. Lover's Lane back here. Gatherers is going to rebuild the forest. And the next thing I might want to do is get a fisherman set up. Fishermen, usually you want to build them out over a lot of water. So here's how the fishing dock works. Everything within its radius, you know, that goes the same with all these structures. They produce proportional to how much of whatever relevant resource is in the radius. So if I were to build this fishing dock here, for instance, let's turn it around. It doesn't have that much. It's like about a third. Whereas if I put it at like a point here, especially over here, this would be really good. But then again, it's also very far from my civilization. So whatever I fish would take a long time to get back. So it's a lot about optimization. But over here, this little spit of land is actually really interesting. If I can fit one of these guys here, would be really great. Okay, there we go. So this is really good. This is going to be my little fishing area. And let's go ahead and have a whole fishing setup here. This will be, eventually once we have a thriving metropolis, this will be, you know, the cool hip downtown wharf area that tourism will spring up in. So that's what's going to be happening here. Eventually I can also expand here. This looks like a really good place for Village 2.0, because as you expand, you'll probably want a lot of room. Where I spawn here down in this valley is pretty restricted. So yeah, it's going to inhibit a lot of what I do, especially if I'm trying to maintain this amount of forest. That means the room I have for villages isn't very much. So yeah, this is probably going to be perhaps even my big farming plantation community down there. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, so it looks like we need a job here. So two ways you can do this: either just increasing it like that, which assigns a villager, or you can do it over here. It's a little bit easier to do it right on the structure itself, because then you just remember it that much more quickly. So yeah, like I said, these houses are way too stocked up with people, which is why, yeah, when I create these new ones, there you go. People are starting to split up, and what you'll notice is the game automatically pairs them off, usually between male and female, and then a little child that they take care of. So yeah, having people from different sexes of approximately the same age, as I found, and it doesn't tell you this anywhere, is optimal for rearing children. So this is going to be my breeding colony. So we have a couple, you know, we're organizing things. Down here is the fishing area. The plantation probably going to be down here, and then we're going to have our breeding colony up through here. Might as well build another house as well, get everyone nice and set up to start breeding optimally. Don't want to build necessarily too many houses, but for the sake of this playthrough, let's just go ahead and do that. I think it should be fine. Yeah, we're building a lot. Have the resources here. Things are going pretty good. Let's fast forward. We're going to start to head towards winter here relatively soon. But all you really need to survive the first winter, as I found out, is just appropriate housing to stay relatively warm. In order to stay warm, they just need some sort of house, and they need firewood, because what they'll do is they'll take the firewood here. You'll notice I don't have any stored firewood. But that's because, essentially, you'll notice here, he's building firewood, and then the people from these houses will come and take the firewood, put it in their houses, and start burning it in order to heat their home. So that's how you prevent from being too cold. So there you go, we're starting to get a bit of a stockpile, and he can actually put the firewood in this inventory location. So this is generic, and it's really nice because this stockpile means they're going to be collecting stuff here, and that means also that the villagers in this area are going to be able to pick it up more easily. So that's a bit of the synergy that you can have from having, you know, production and stockpile areas and their use all next to one another. So there you go, that's what's going on. Alright, over here, let's go ahead and get some people going on the Forester Lodge, and I'm going to tell them to stop cutting and just plant. I want to rebuild this forest. So, okay, looking pretty good. They've brought all of the stone. Most of it is actually going to construction, which is nice because I basically mine the stone and then put it immediately into these structures, which is very efficient. There you go, you can see him depositing it. And I like the little animations for your people. So that's pretty cool. Alright, we're doing pretty good. What we may end up doing is having another, oh, what's this? Production limit reach for this resource. Okay. So basically what that's saying is you can set different limits, as we saw earlier, and essentially it's a way to control your population because a lot of stuff is automated. Essentially you can set limits where people are going to be doing their task, and you can say, hey, people stop. You know, we only need 600 logs at a certain point in time, and then just stop. Start doing other tasks and prioritize other things. So that's what I've done here. I just increased it a little bit so people keep going. Apparently it doesn't think so. Okay, there you go. Yeah, so we're fine. Actually, I'm going to up it a little bit because logs are always very important. Let's put that to 1,000. Okay, so we got that going on. We have him to chop down wood for these guys. Our little colony over here is doing pretty good. They're probably going to need their own woodcutter, so they can get it from this guy, but I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of duplication. Oh, and actually, yeah, what we're going to want to do is probably have a little bit of a stockpile area for them as well. So we'll do that, and then what we'll do is we'll have a woodcutter over here. And if I build it on top of those stones, what they'll do is they'll actually collect the stones first as they're removing it, place it here, and then bring it back to build. So that's relatively efficient. So, okay, yeah, villages here are going to need access to firewood to keep them warm and a little stockpile area to keep it nearby. Yeah, so that's, you can see I'm mirroring that. And a cool thing too as well is the food that's gathered here is pretty close to both housing communities. So they can go ahead, you know, and take the food to both locations as need be. I might actually end up setting up a, yeah, there's deer here. So I might set up a hunter's lodge, which means that the hunter's lodge will probably end up feeding these people. And then the fish will end up feeding this population. So that's a nice little trade-off and balance we have there. And I'm not going to be too overcrowded. Let's go back and go to our resource production. Let's put the hunting cabin. Like I said, you want it to generally cover where their deer are at. So you can see this on the map. You want to keep track of them. They'll migrate over time. So we saw them here. We've seen them roam across the area. And basically the hunter will only hunt things that fall within his range. So if I were to build this here, that's kind of smart because it hits the deer, but a lot of the radius is wasted to the south and over the mountain. So what I can actually do is probably put it closer to here. And that's pretty good because it hits a lot of stuff. It gets the west bank of the river as well as some to the north. So let's put our hunter's cabin there. So that'll be pretty good, and it's still relatively close to these areas. Another important thing that I found out is when you have a fire, you want to be close to the water. So that also counts for rivers. So here, if there's a fire, they can take care of it. Whereas my more centrally located area, I might need to build a well for them. It looks like I also have deer migrating in my village, so we may end up putting a hunter's lodge down south. Yeah, a lot of mushrooms and stuff, so a hunter's gatherer as well might be important. And yeah, lots of deer to the south. Ooh, tons of deer to the south. So this might be another place where I have a lot of food production in the future. The deer will also start to do crazy things, like just walk across lakes. So perhaps the devil's at work in this area. It could be cursed. But yeah, this is the general gist of the game. You kind of build up your resources over time. No real end game to it. But you start to slowly tech up your population. Take a look at this. A couple small trees are popping up. An event log will pop up. Things will say you're low on resources. It'll say when people go from being a child to adults. It'll tell you when children are born. So already we're starting to get some children born. So here, a child of age 0. And we'll take a look at the housing community over here. Yeah, you can see everyone's dispersing rather quickly. The ideal, I think, is just 2 or 3 per little area. Yeah, perfect. So this is going to be a nice lover's lane. We're going to have a big population boom, I believe, but we're still short of a couple houses. And like I said previously, you can't have a minimum number of houses, so technically everyone could probably fit in 3 houses. But the more you spread them out, the more happy they're going to be, the more likely they are to reproduce. So that's kind of that little hidden mechanic. Okay, what next do we want to do? Well, looks like we can start to put people on production here. Another thing I found is there's these weird little optimization things. So I think fishermen, if you put it all the way up to 4, it's just not going to be as efficient. If you maximize everything, I think I found that usually you want to have about half or just 1 to 2 people on every place. Maximizing it will have a lot of quick return, but diminishing returns over time. So spread them out. Same thing goes with this fishing dock. I kind of overlapped a fair amount, so this wasn't necessarily the smartest thing. Probably would have rather put it down here, but for the sake of just this tutorial or playthrough, let's go ahead and leave it here, and we'll just double up on that. These aren't going to be as efficient, so I'm going to probably just put 2 fishermen there and 1 fisherman here. That's still okay. Okay. So once you start to get your different areas of production ongoing, you might want to start to look at optimization. So one thing you can do to optimize is the paths that your citizens are following. So for instance, when they're traveling to and from places, you want them to do so quickly, because that's going to obviously make resource gathering and distribution, collection, etc. much more efficient. So what you could do is there's different types of paths that you can do. First is a dirt road. It's just a little bit faster. It's not that much better, but it's cheap and easy to do. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of this just in front of my houses to allow them to connect that. Same thing goes with this firewood. I know people are going to be walking back and forth between the various areas a lot. Let's collect this. So you go. You can see they're going to be collecting firewood from this stockpile area as well. A lot. So let's just go ahead and pave this whole section up. So some of my workers are going to go ahead and do that. In the future, what I can do is I could start to have stone roads, although these cost stone, and it's pretty expensive to do this. You usually only want to do that over your highly trafficked area, and at this point, I don't know enough about my eventual layout to invest in that. You can also do wooden bridges, which is if ever you want to cross a river, you need to have a wooden bridge, and it's pretty simple. They'll just cross over. I'm figuring I'm going to have a wooden bridge to cross over here. Just to show you, let's go ahead and build this. And that'll be my means of crossing over here. We might have a bridge down here as well, but for now, we'll just have it located here. So okay, we've gone over housing, basic food production, basic tasks, a couple things that you need to arrive at winter. So late autumn, we're going to start to head into winter soon. You can also see winter on the ground here. Sorry, snow on the ground here. But it takes a fair amount of time before people start dying off, especially at just standard speeds. So I'm not too worried. People are fishing. We're going to start to get some food here. Yeah, we're doing okay. And we have our other woodcutter, and we have resources here. Another thing I'm going to tell my people to do is if you have a lot of laborers just kind of milling about, they don't, basically you want to queue them up with a lot of tasks. So what I'm going to do here is just tell them to, hey, you know, if you're not doing anything, just continue to clean up all the resources around our settlements. Just that way they're constantly working on something, and I'll continue to have reserves. They are saying the food reserves are low, which is a little bit, oh shit, we're completely out of food actually. So what we're going to want to do is up our gatherer's hut people. And what we'll probably want to do is, yes, we have some people assigned to fishing, or we will once this is constructed. So once this is done, let's put one more, oh. Let's put a, there we go, fisherman. So we have 2 here and 1 here. Okay, great. This guy has gotten a fair amount of firewood. That's fine. He's got a lot of stockpiles for this area. Gatherers are up to 4. We have 1 person here in charge of planting. This place here says they're very hungry. So we're going to have to look after food production. And to do that, what we're probably going to want to do is we're going to want to prioritize this region over here. So let's set the priority here, because I do see a fair amount of deer just idling. Let's go after that. And what we can probably do is, if we're going to be hunting here, we might as well be gathering as well. I see a fair amount of little mushrooms and such. So let's set up another gatherer's region. Set up a gatherer's hut. And again, try and center it as much as possible on the land. There we go. And let's prioritize this construction as much as possible. So now that things are underway, let's fast forward times 10. Stored food is really low. I think we may end up having people die here soon. So how to do better? Well, a lot of the time early game was spent talking. What you probably want to do early game is actually build up a couple of more gatherers hunts first and foremost, just because that's pretty efficient in terms of food production. And yeah, people are going to start to starve. So we need to make sure that these places are up and running, which I've already prioritized. They're a little bit out of the way, which is going to be causing a bit of the slowdown in terms of my production, because people have to travel a long way. In the winter, they're going to start to spend more and more time back at home as well. And you can see these people aren't starving anymore because they have food again. So people will actually have, you know, stockpiles of food. So these guys have run out of their stockpile. And here comes some migrating deer. So it's important to keep an eye on where the path is going to be. Seeing as how there's a lot of deer here, we might want to end up putting a... Oh, shit. Okay, here we have our first death. Lord of the Laborer has died from starvation. So, yeah, they're having a repeat of our first civilization. I'm not a very good god here. But that's okay. Like I said, we're going to have a big population boom because people are pairing off. That's okay. A couple deaths here and there isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm just not showing the best management, obviously. Yeah, people are going to start to die off pretty quickly, but we still have the bare rudiments of, you know, berries to survive. Yikes. Oh, it looks like these people are stockpiling a lot of food. But yeah, we're eating everything collected from the forest, essentially. What do we have here? This was going to be a woodcutter's. Don't really need that, so we can put it on pause for now. Don't really care if anyone does that. Okay, we're getting a fair amount of deer crossing over here. That's fine. I assume they're going to wander down through here eventually. Let's fast forward this again. Okay, we're building our bridge, and it looks like the deer are flocking about. I'm a little curious about where they end up going. They do have some predetermined paths. I'm not quite sure how randomized it is, but it looks like they are mostly, I think last time we'd seen them, they're down here. So eventually a hunter's lodge here connected by this bridge will be a good investment. But, okay. Lots of firewood. So I think what we can do at this point is we have enough firewood. So let's turn off the woodcutter. So he's going to go back to just being a generic laborer, which is okay. I'm going to put more builders because right here it says of 8. So 8 presumably is going to be how much it takes to efficiently build all my structures. Because I have a lot of stuff here. Wooden bridge, hunting cabin, and gatherer's cabin. So I want to prioritize these, like we said, to get more food. We have a little bit, but I want to get more. So our hearts go out to Lornal, but our civilization will forge ahead past her tragic death. And there you go, you can see the task is still assigned to a lot of my laborers, so the people who don't have much roles are just going to be continuing to chop away at the wood, place it over here, and build up our stockpiles, which is pretty decent. And now we can see these guys getting over here, clearing out the land, and starting to deposit some stuff. Okay, we're at late winter, we lost one person, but that will be more than offset by, I believe, the population boom. Yeah, you can see here, first Brailer, our first child. I expect to see more of those over time. And yeah, the most deaths you're going to see are going to be in the winter time as well. Okay, here comes some migrating deer. So yeah, maybe we want to put a hunter lodge over here, because there's going to be a lot of deer all over the place. And it's a good thing, you know, if you're going to maintain the forest, to also gather from the forest and then also hunt the game from the forest. Let's have another one of those as well. You want the option to, you know, maybe you're not going to use all your buildings at once, but you do want the option eventually to be able to pile everyone into those structures to have a sudden burst of food if you need it. Let's put this off pause, just because I think we're through winter, we can start to get everyone working again. Okay, we're back to full speed. So I hope you guys are enjoying this kind of change in gameplay. This simulation type game doesn't have any combat in it, which is a little bit of a breath of fresh air. I was, when I first went into this, kind of scared about there being, I don't know, Indian attacks or something going on, rival villages that you might have to combat with. But once I saw that there were no military structures, I was like, okay, this is just me against the elements, which I'm not necessarily always you know, the best at. As you've seen, we've already lost villagers, but it's a nice change of pace, like I said. I have found another game on the Steam Workshop that I do want to check out relatively soon. I believe it's called Northgard, where it's essentially the same premise as this, but it's honed a little bit differently. It's focused around kind of a Viking theme, and it does have a lot of the same functionality of this game, but then it allows you to have some combat. So I am kind of eager to try that one out after this. But let's go ahead and do a little bit of playthroughs on this one first. Okay, cool. So we have our first hunting cabin. We're going to go ahead and assign a hunter here. And he's going to go over here. He's going to start to kill some of the deer that are in the area. Oh, those are mushrooms. There are some of the deer. So one of the byproducts of deer is not only, you know, venison that you can eat, but also he can start to get deer pelts. And essentially the pelts will stockpile here. So they call those stored textiles. So that's just whenever you get furs. And then eventually you can turn those furs through a tanner into stored clothes. And the stored clothes will allow your people to stay warm in winter because they can freeze to death. And you can see same thing goes with tools. Tools help you be more productive. Both tools and clothes are going to eventually kind of wear themselves out. So at first you have enough to last like maybe a couple years, but eventually these run out. And once you run out of tools, you're very, very slow. So you want to make sure that before this runs out that you do invest in a blacksmith and you start producing more tools. So okay, you're starting to understand what's going on, basic stuff, how to keep your citizens' lives, how to remain productive. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about higher tier stuff. So one of the things you'll notice is, okay, you can upgrade houses to be, you know, maybe a little bit more efficient, use less firewood, etc. If you start to have huge population booms, what you can do is you can have these massive boarding homes which crowd people. I believe boarding homes just help to house people so that they're not cold, but I don't think it'll be very good for reproduction. So this is a boarding house just to house those who are temporarily out of a place to stay. Tunnels, if you wanted to increase, you know, movement through places, you could build a tunnel that cuts through there. If you have big civilizations that you want to join. Other things you can do, different storage. So right now I have a stockpile, but eventually what I could do is another storage barn. So a stockpile essentially here is used to store raw goods that aren't perishable. So firewood, iron, logs, and stone. All the kinds of food and tools and coats, stuff that can deteriorate, is going to be inside structures, either in the home, like in their inventory, or in this structure. So maybe if you have a lot of production, you're going to want more of these. Maybe you want another barn because let's say I'm starting to have a lot of food production over here. And instead of having to, you know, drag it over here, and then when these people are hungry, they have to walk over here, maybe I want another depot over here. So I'll have to create another barn. So that's why you would create this. Another thing you can also do is a market. So a market allows you to have a bunch of different stuff in a centralized location. and it collects it from everything in this radius. So it's a little bit more efficient way to collect and distribute your resources. Another thing also that's very important is going to be this trading post. So trading post is one of your only connections to the outside world, and what it essentially is you have to place it on a river. So yeah, if I place it here, oh wait, sorry, it's got to be, yeah, like this. So let's go ahead and, like, do I want to build this? I'm questioning whether I want to build it here and now. Let's build it here. That seems reasonable. And I think he'll come. I hope he'll come. Let me go. Let me go ahead. So whenever I've built it before, I've built it on a river, and essentially what ends up happening is you have this merchant who travels down the river, and then he will eventually make his way to your trading post. Like I said, I've only ever built it on a river. I built it on a lake here, so my hope is he comes around here, stops, and then continues on his way. So we'll see if that ends up being true or not. But essentially what the merchant does, or the trading post does, is once the guy comes along, he has goods. So he might bring you sheep, cattle, grains, various things that you don't currently have, and you have to trade goods for them. So when you're trading stuff to him, he's going to want, obviously, you're bartering. So if he has a cow, cows are very, very expensive, and so you have to give him a lot of stuff. Some of the things that you could give him is raw stone, raw iron, but a lot of the raw goods, it takes a lot to be able to trade it, and it's not worth very much. What he really cares about is some of your unique things. So, you know, if you have a brewery and you have ale and beer, that's going to sell very well. Same thing with tools, you can sell that. So what ends up happening with the trader oftentimes is, and this happened in my first game, I didn't describe it in my first go-around, but when I had that dying civilization and I saw that he was offering cows, I'm like, oh, a new hope for food. Maybe I can't have a generation of children, but I can have a generation of cows and chickens. So I tried to trade with him, but he was charging exorbitant prices. But I was like, this is my last hope to flourish. So what I ended up doing is I gave him essentially all my resources. I took all my tools, all my clothes, put it on this boat, and traded almost, you know, 20 metric tons of crap just for one cow, because it is very expensive. And he took it away and had this one cow. The cow sat here, and it turns out that the cows won't reproduce unless you have two of them. So I was sitting there with one cow, assuming the game would like generate more over time, but no, it was just one stupid cow. So I was like, oh my god, I can't even afford a second cow. So I had one cow, winter was coming, and I had to slaughter the cow just for food to survive the winter. So that the first civilization was a lot of lessons learned. Okay, so yeah, that's why we're building this. And you're gonna have to assign someone to be a trading post guy, and he is gonna be basically, you then have to start to shift resources into here in preparation for when the dude arrives. So there's a lot of stuff in terms of resource management, etc. You can also notice that our bridge is done here. So it's just sitting here, waiting for us to cut across. And like I said, seeing how much game is around here, we may end up building a hunter's cabin to collect more resources. Over here we have our gatherer's hut. Let's go ahead and put some more gatherers. So it says 3 of 4 are here, and 2 of 4. Okay, so we have 5 total. I think I may have said before that I think you want half to be optimum, so about 2 and 2 on either side. So that works well for me. And this here, focusing on planting is working really well. It looks like the deer are loving these. I don't really know how the deer work as well, but I assume it's, you know, built off of open ground or new trees that they can eat. This is good. It's attracting the deer. And I have my hunting lodge that I believe I had built. It's a little bit out of range, but as these guys move, I should be able to poach them as well. That's pretty good. So things are on the up and up. This is a bit more of a happy civilization. Like I said, we had that one death, but now we're having a bit of a boom. 2 children to make up for it. And yeah, another little child there. So we're doing pretty good. Let's look at our main civilization down here. A lot of overcrowding happening here, so let's go ahead and give them another house, and this will be the mayor's house. We'll start to have some high-end. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do 2 of these stone houses for my my elderly civilians. Eventually, I might upgrade these guys as well, and this will be my core area that has a lot of the upgraded stuff. Whereas the people on the periphery are gonna have to rely on just having, you know, woodcutters for their firewood. These guys can have nice, comfy homes, etc., which is nice. Okay, so we're fishing. We're doing good. What do we want to do? We have our gatherer. We have a hunter there. Not sure if he's hunted the deer. I don't see them anymore. They may have migrated or they may have been killed. Looks like a basket of berries is here as well. So like I said, also, they've collected food, but there's nowhere to place it. So what I might want to do is actually create a storage barn so they can put some of their food there. Not quite sure I necessarily need this. But like I said, again, just for the sake of this tutorial, let's put our barn, yeah, about halfway between the two. And what we'll also want to do is we'll want to maintain the woods here. Let's put a forester as well. Forester lodge. And boom. The green arrows here also I haven't mentioned before. That's the way they access it. It's not super important. You just want to make sure that it's not impeded. But besides that, it's not that important. So there you go. Gonna have a forester's lodge there just to keep this nice and green. Allow the gatherer and all that to be very efficient. Another thing also that you can do in the woods is start to collect herbs. So the herbs is basically like your early medic or doctor, in the sense where they'll gather a lot of herbs, and as you start to get health deterioration, you want to have an herbalist to try and collect some of the local stuff from the forest to keep your guys healthy. So over here, again, I'm going to have this close to both housing communities and also within a forest, in order to have a lot of capacity to not only collect herbs, but then also treat the people on both sides. That's pretty good. Alright, we're doing alright. Firewood's holding out. I'm only really going to task people to cut wood once we start to get closer to winter. And look at all of these deer teasing me just out of range of this hunting cabin. Actually, the hunting cabin is 0% complete. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and... Let's see, can I think I can delete it. Let me... There we go. So that hunting cabin was perhaps not the best place. Let's put the hunting cabin... Yeah, let's put it right here. So the reason I'm thinking of putting it here is because it covers the deer to the south, a little bit to the north where I see more deer, and a little bit to the east. Let's toggle it over. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we'll have all kinds of food production. This forest is going to be very good, and it's a nice little place to kind of surround, or to be in between my villages. It's a hub of production. So it's looking pretty solid. Storage barn over here to collect more resources, and lots of people, adults, have come of age. But we still have a nice brood of children. 5 came out over the winter. And as long as I have more houses over time, and I keep the population, well replenished and well housed, we should be okay to keep that population trend going. Although it can get out of control pretty quick. On the other hand, I've dealt mostly with too many people dying, but I do presume if you have too many people growing over time, your food production is not going to be able to keep up. So that's another thing you have to plan ahead of time. Yeah, maybe I'm focused on getting a large population, but that food is going to dwindle really quick. Even stored food here, I don't have very much. So I'm going to have to probably expand to have this little hunting area down here. So let's go ahead and put that hunter's lodge down here. And just make sure it covers. There are so many goddamn deer here. It's crazy. All right, let's put them aquí. And once I have this hunting cabin, what's going to end up happening is it's going to be a long way for him to carry food over there. So what I may end up doing is creating a third little village. So the food he produces here will be distributed to the people locally. And then they're going to want more infrastructure, so they'll probably have a log cutter, and then they'll have farms, and then maybe this will be more productive. So over time, you'll see that it's kind of guiding your hand pretty intuitively in terms of how you're building your structures. And I found spacing it out is pretty good as long as you have some of the crucial hubs, firewood, food production, and storage nearby. Another thing we might also want to do is connect things. So over here we've said that there's a lot of stuff that's going to be joining my villages. So let's go ahead and invest in a nice road here. I want to make this a little bit prettier. A nice road that connects down to my village here. There we go. And we'll have this come along. So this is going to take up a lot of stone, which is a pretty big investment at first. So what we're going to want to do is tell my idle laborers to start collecting just all the local stone in the area. Just while we wait, because that's a resource you're going to get through a lot. Same thing with here. I'm just going to want to collect all of it as much as possible. Okay, things are looking good. Lots of building projects. So I'm going to task some more. Leave one of the laborers just so he can do his laborer things. And we're going to end up with a lot of hunters. One over here. We're going to have another one in the forest here. And eventually one down south. So I do need these children to start to grow up so I can have more people tasked to these various roles. Same thing with the herbalist. But this forest popping up here, I'm very happy about that. This is going to be great. And I'm glad I didn't put too many structures here because that will impede the, obviously, construction of the forest, or the rebuilding of the forest, regrowing of the forest. If you have structures, it'll block it. And it will go a little bit far enough, but because I have structures here, it means the forest will stop just here. Okay, so I think we are on autopilot for a little while. Let's put this on fast forward. I'm also not quite sure how long I want to record. I think I want to get just far enough until we get past maybe another winter. Then I'll probably stop this, and then I'll save it, and we can come back to this if you guys do enjoy this. Keep the civilization going, and maybe do a little bit more storytelling along the way. But from my own perspective, I am enjoying this. It's a fun change of pace. Ooh, let's go ahead and put another another woodcutter. 2 of them as well, and let's slow down on the building. There we go. Food reserve is low. So yep, food reserve is low. That means we're gonna have to put more people on gathering. Let's slow down the construction. Let's put more fishermen. Yeah. So as you start to get into winter, what you're gonna want to do is obviously transition more and more people into your production. Well, actually, you want to try and produce more food and stockpile it prior to winter. But last case scenario, you can try and just go straight into food production in the winter and plow through it the other way. And then construction should typically take place during the summer when it's nice and hot out and people are well fed and you're not dealing with too many issues. So that's why construction is going to go a little bit to a crawl. I'm going to take away a little bit on that and allow people to do their thing in terms of other tasks. And here it'll also tell you the roles of people. Right now I don't have a very good way of managing all my citizens. But what you can end up doing is if you do have, if you advance far enough to the point where you're maybe ready to start to tech up into a proper city, you can create this town hall. And the town hall will give you more statistics on the people that you have, give you better control over your civilization. Census data, records, etc. And whatnot. So yeah, it starts to get pretty heavily involved. And now we have our nice wooden road, and you can see these people blitz fast. And the AI has a little bit of programming in it to tell the citizens to take the shortest path. And there you can see, yep, they're calculating this as the shortest path. And already it's having its intended effect. People here are... Actually, it looks like these are individuals who are coming from over here, who are looking for food, and the only place that food is stored is, I guess, over here. So the berries are being gathered, they're being stored here, and then the people are going all the way out of the way. So that is a bit inconvenient, which is why I built this structure here. So okay, cool. People are starting to store it here, which means that when these citizens start to get hungry, they can just pull it out of here. So that's going to be a little bit more efficient. Same thing when this hunter-gatherer society gets... Oh, there you go. It's already working. So they're taking the berries and depositing it here. There you go. More berries. So you're starting to see a little bit of the... This is like an ant colony. You know, they're setting down their pheromones. This is their most traveled paths. Here to the food and back. Same thing over here. We may want to create a road connecting this. So let's go ahead and do that. I don't have much stone. So for now, we're going to go ahead and have just a basic path for them as well. Same thing for this guy. Let's go ahead and connect this, and this will come around. And there you have it. So that'll help with that. And then eventually I'll want to connect this. Have some highways going. Yeah, this is looking pretty good. Health is still dropping, but I do have my herbalist here. once this is all removed. So I may want to put back on the laborers. The laborers here are going to help clear this out. But health isn't something I'm too worried about. Most of the things that we want to take care of is food. But you can see once I transition people over to being more gatherers, more fishermen, more hunters, you can quickly get up in food. Winter is hit, but we have a pretty good stockpile. Iron is going to be low, so again, let's go ahead and go to resource gathering and just make sure that we're collecting that wherever we find it. Alright, stored firewood is back to being okay, so I'm going to take away one of these woodcutters. Looks like he was doing a lot of chopping here and potentially storing it here. Yeah, so this is fine. So let's get, let's take down one of my woodcutters. And pretty good. Gatherer's Hunting Lodge. Great. And the last one I built was the Forester Lodge, alright, to maintain it. So eventually we'll have to task another forester there. Okay, and here you can see the deer just within range of the hunting cabin. So it looks like that turned out pretty well. And he can nab some things that end up on the north side of this river. Although, actually I'm not quite sure if he can do that without a bridge. But we'll focus on that later. Okay, so this has no one working here, which is fine. I think we have enough firewood. Yeah, it's still stockpiled here. So I'll wait to task that. Alright, go back and fast forward a little bit. And firewood is low. Okay, I'll go back and task someone to be woodcutter. So now we have woodcutters on both ends. Stored firewood here, stored firewood potentially here. People are taking it and putting it in their homes. Although now we do have this stone area, and man, these guys are eating a lot. Oh, let's put this on slow motion, or put it back on slow because we're low on food. It's still okay. Not troubling. Last winter we went through 0, and it looks like we're actually getting some more children booming in the winter. So like I said, we had a couple deaths, but population is going to start to surge rather quickly. We may want to consider having a school here soon to educate the local peeps, not just in the way of the forest, but in the way of advanced civilization. Yeah, we have quite a few food production hubs over here, and then down here. I actually forgot about this one, but it hasn't even begun construction yet, so that's a long-term task. Same thing with the trading post. I think we should be able to survive. I will task gatherers, we're fine. I will put one more on hunting, and that should, as we go into fast forward, cruise us through winter. We'll just keep an eye on the food. Late winter, still dwindling on decent amounts of food. As long as you're not below zero, people aren't going to start to starve. And you saw last time, you can coast on 0 for a little bit of time before you start dying. And there you go, early spring. So now we're going to head back into our construction phase. So let's go down on the total amount of collection there. We are also starting to get some pelts, and we're getting low on clothes, so we might want to start to transition those by having a tanner. But I'm not quite ready for that just yet. And we're doing pretty good. Cabin, Forester Lodge. Alright, fast forward this a little bit more. And I think what I can end up doing here pretty soon is calling it quits. I think now that we've stabilized, we've gone through our little story arc of a video. And yeah, this is a pretty good point in time. It's a nice thing to end on a high note, because I'm sure in the next playthrough what we'll end up doing is the fall of my civilization. So Nova Carthago is flourishing at the time being, but now let's go ahead and call it quits. Pause, I will save this afterwards, and we'll get back to this in another video if you guys think you like it. Go ahead and check the game out as well. It's called Banished, and it's nice. It's a time killer, but very fun and educational in a sense. So yeah, that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. See you.